China, with its rapid, ambitious push toward electric vehicles, especially in China itself, is keen on maintaining a positive image of its EV industry. This much is really clear, both domestically in China and also to everyone else in the world. So we can all sort of see that that's what's going on. So while there's no direct evidence to prove that China has deliberately told porkies about EV fires, there are compelling reasons to suggest why they might possibly be motivated to downplay such incidents. So we'll get into this in a minute. Thank you very much for joining me again, folks. Thank you to the Patreon supporters and the members on YouTube memberships. I'm Ben Alexander and I make EV news videos every day. So if you're interested in this video, then please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, because of the content of this video, it's likely to be thwarted by YouTube's algorithm and suppressed. So I really would like it if you did consider at least subscribing and pressing the notification symbol, the little thing, the bell next to the subscribe button for me. That would be great. So it has been on the news lately about China's supposed cover-up of EV fires. And in all fairness, I thought this was interesting. There are things to say here. There are some good reasons that they would want to do that, and they would want to dull the light, so to speak, on EV fires. Or if they have the power, at least, to take down some posts on the internet to stop the message moving about that China makes cars and these cars set on fire, it would, I think, would go a long way in terms of, not losing sales all over the world, particularly in the West, where we are now kind of coming around to China-made vehicles, full stop, let alone electric vehicles. So 80% of the vehicles, the EVs, last year sold in Australia came directly on a boat from China. So it's a big deal for them. China has invested heavily in becoming what now is a global leader in the EV industry. So downplaying EV fires can protect the interests of domestic EV manufacturers such as MG, which is state-owned, and BYD, and manufacturers and suppliers. Negative news about EV safety could, and probably will, adversely affect investor confidence and hinder their industry growth. And by investor confidence, I mean you, basically, the people that are actually buying their vehicles. So you are invested in their companies when you give them 50 grand, £50,000 or dollars or anything. So the Chinese government has set really ambitious production and sales targets for their EVs. Not just in China, but everywhere in the world. So these targets are not only vital for the country's economic growth, but are also closely monitored by investors all over the world again. So a decrease in consumer confidence or concerns about safety could jeopardize these growth targets, and that I don't think is a thing that China would tolerate really very well. And of course, missing a target is not really an issue, but it will start to become an issue when multiple targets back to back are not being met. So China aims to present itself everywhere as a global leader in green technology and sustainability. They care about their image. So the EV industry is a cornerstone of this image. So any adverse publicity related to EV fires might tarnish China's reputation and impede its ability to market themselves on a global stage. There is currently no standardized global protocol for reporting EV battery fire incidents. I've mentioned this before. No benchmarks or distinction between a vehicle fire and a vehicle battery fire. So this makes it challenging to compare incident rates across different regions with different vehicles, ICE vehicles, EVs, that sort of thing. So like I've already said, lack of uniform reporting standards provides room for lots of speculation and doubt. Also, the mainstream media can, of course, say what they like, so that you click on their stuff, which means they get your time, and that means basically to them money. While these reasons may suggest a motivation to downplay EV battery fires, it is important, I think, to note that ensuring safety is one of the top priorities for any responsible government and industry. Downplaying or concealing safety concerns could have severe consequences, and I think most governments and manufacturers are dedicated enough to ensuring the safety of their products, or at least that's exactly what they want you to think. So I personally think that they will lie to your face if they thought it would make them more money. I really do. And I think the only government that I know of that is not incredibly corrupt or dodgy is the Norwegian government. And even that has a few question marks at times. So the call for greater transparency and the development of stringent safety measures in the EV industry is not only in China's interest, but also has a shared responsibility in the pursuit of sustainable and safe electric mobility for all sorts of things, e-bikes, cars, scooters, anything like that. So it is interesting to just understand who the Chinese government is. So frankly, there are some dodgy things, and they are some of the dodgiest people I've ever seen. So if you haven't heard of the Chinese police stations all over the world, illegally in places like Sydney and all over, just Google it. I'll basically put a link for a video below. They've basically got unregistered police stations unofficially in lots of places whereby local people that are working for the Chinese government are actually doing incredibly dodgy things, such as intimidating public figures that say things against the Chinese government on camera. So public people with a public profile. By doing lots of things that are weird, like setting up fake accounts and sending horrible emails to the police, saying horrible things, pretending to be the person that has said some bad things about China, and in its simplest form, very childish, dodgy stuff. And it's literally being set up and paid for by the Chinese government and not actually admitted to, but they are actually defending it. But they're just not admitting it, but they are defending it. So there's a video, I'll put this video below. It is very revealing, and it's just dodgy on a new level. Like if you're from England or Norway or Sweden or Australia, even Australia, you still would be surprised at the level of dodginess going on here. So it is actually happening. It's not just something we think is happening. And the BBC and the ABC both made documentaries on this, and it's just bonkers. Also, places in China can be horrible to live, and the government are knowingly licensing caged homes or cage homes in the cities, which are basically like dog cages, but with humans in, and these are licensed. So this is something that is licensed and recognised and permitted by the authorities. So definitely don't think they would operate in a more honourable way, like perhaps the British government or Norwegian government or Swedish government or something like that, because we are talking about a complete different culture, a complete different part of the world. And as much as they make brilliant cars, China itself has some massive question marks surrounding its operations and ethical practices. It's bonkers. I know some of you will disagree with that. That's okay. We're all adults. I think we can have our own opinions. So I'll put a link in the description of a video which is really interesting. So if you could get that watched, just to get a bit of insight, I think you'd find it revealing actually. And I promise you, you will be quite jaw-dropped when you watch it. It's pretty in-your-face stuff. What I'm saying is that there is actually no evidence that they have covered up any EV fires at all. But it is suspected that they have and will do whilst they're the people taking the money from the West, basically, for their EVs. And of course, huge amounts of stuff come from China anyway, so that have nothing to do with EVs. So I not sure how much of a dent it makes, but obviously this is a big deal. So I'm not at all saying that they've done wrong in this vein, but it is likely. I think everyone kind of agrees with that, because you are so far from the notion of having a government that cares about its people in China, so far that it will literally bends the horizon and then some. It's terrible. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you for watching, and thanks for watching to the end as well. That's nice of you. Thank you. And I hope it was interesting to you. Thanks to the Patreon supporters, YouTube members, for chucking a few dollars a month. Much appreciated, and enjoy the rest of the day.